Long before refrigerators, electricity, or plastic crates, the Vikings solved a problem that still defeats modern gardeners: how to keep root vegetables crisp, alive, and edible through long, brutal winters. Snow buried the land for months. The ground froze hard as stone. Fresh food disappeared. Yet carrots, turnips, beets, and parsnips survived until spring. The solution was not a building. It was not technology. It was soil itself. The Vikings used what later farmers would call a root clamp, a simple underground storage mound made from earth, straw, and careful placement. No wood walls, no metal, no insulation except what nature already provided. And it worked so well that the same method quietly survived for over 1,000 years across Scandinavia, Britain, and Northern Europe. A Viking clamp wasn't dug deep like a cellar. That would risk flooding and rot. Instead, vegetables were layered just below the frost line, where soil temperature stays remarkably stable, usually between 1 and 4 degrees centigrade all winter. Cold enough to slow decay, warm enough to prevent freezing. Carrots stored this way didn't dry out. They didn't soften. They stayed crisp for 6 to 8 months, sometimes longer. Not because they were preserved, but because they were kept alive, breathing slowly in the dark. Archaeological records show winter food stores arranged near longhouses, always on slight slopes. Vikings knew water was the enemy. Drainage mattered more than depth. A clamp that stayed dry would outlast any wooden cellar. This wasn't folk magic, it was applied observation. Soil is the most reliable climate control system humans ever discovered, and then forgot. Modern refrigeration works by forcing cold air around food. A Viking root clamp works by doing the opposite, protecting vegetables from rapid temperature change. That difference is everything. Inside a proper clamp, temperature changes slowly. Soil buffers heat loss, straw traps air, moisture stays balanced. Vegetables remain dormant, not stressed. This is why carrots stored in a clamp don't wrinkle or rot like fridge carrots do. A basic Viking-style clamp follows a simple structure. First, a shallow trench is scraped, not dug, just enough to nest vegetables below surface frost. A base layer of dry straw or leaves creates airflow and prevents direct soil contact. Carrots are laid in a single direction, tops removed cleanly to prevent rot. They must not touch each other too tightly. Air gaps matter. Then another layer of straw, then soil, not compacted, but gently piled. Finally, more straw or sod on top to shed rain and snow. The shape matters. A rounded mound allows water to run off. Flat tops fail. Vikings learned this the hard way. Collapsed clamps meant hunger. What surprises modern gardeners is how low-tech precision this system requires. Too dry and carrots shrivel. Too wet and they rot. Too warm and they sprout. Too cold and they freeze. The clamp balances all four automatically if built correctly. Refrigerators dry vegetables. Plastic suffocates them. Root clamps respect biology. This is why carrots pulled from a clamp in March often taste sweeter than when harvested. Cold converts starch to sugar. The Vikings didn't know the chemistry, but they knew the result. They weren't storing food. They were pausing time. Most failed root clamps are not ruined by cold. They are ruined by water. Viking farmers understood this instinctively, and modern gardeners often learn it the hard way. The location of a clamp matters more than the materials used to build it. A proper clamp is never placed in the lowest part of the garden. Depressions collect meltwater. Even frozen ground channels water downward during thaws. One warm spell is enough to turn a clamp into a rot chamber. Vikings chose gentle slopes, often south-facing but never fully exposed. Gravity was their drainage system. Soil type mattered just as much. Sandy loam was ideal. Heavy clay held too much moisture. In clay soils, clamps were built higher above ground, relying more on insulation than burial. Where soil stayed wet, clamps were smaller and temporary, emptied earlier in winter. Before vegetables ever touched the soil, Vikings tested the ground by observation. Where snow melted first, soil warmed too quickly. Where ice lingered longest, freezing risk increased. The perfect site held snow evenly and released it slowly. Vegetables themselves were selected carefully. Only undamaged roots went into clamps. Any cuck, bruise, or broken skin invited rot that would spread silently through the pile. Carrot tops were twisted off cleanly, never cut, to avoid open wounds. Inside the clamp, order mattered. Carrots faced the same direction. Beets were grouped by size. Turnips and parsnips were separated. Mixed storage increased moisture imbalance and disease transfer. The clamp was then sealed but not suffocated. Straw layers breathed. Soil was mounded, not packed. The final cover shed rain like a roof. Some Viking sites show turf placed grass side down, creating a living moisture barrier. A clamp was checked rarely. Opening it too often introduced warm air and condensation. Food was removed in batches, then resealed. Discipline mattered. Patience preserved food.
Modern storage focuses on convenience. Viking storage focused on biology. That difference explains why root clamps still outperform refrigerators for long-term storage. Refrigerators fluctuate constantly. Doors open, dry air circulates, humidity drops. Vegetables dehydrate, soften, and lose flavor. Root clamps remain stable. Soil absorbs excess moisture and releases it slowly. Temperature shifts are gradual, never shocking. Inside a clamp, carrots remain alive. Their metabolism slows but does not stop. Respiration continues at a minimal rate. Sugars increase. Texture stays firm. Nutrients remain intact. This is why clamp-stored carrots often taste better in late winter than fresh harvest carrots in autumn. There is also no light. Light triggers sprouting and bitterness. Darkness preserves dormancy. Vikings understood this without explanation. They buried vegetables not to hide them, but to protect them from stimulation. In times of scarcity, clamps provided security. A family could lose livestock, grain, even tools, but as long as the clamp held, hunger could be delayed. This reliability shaped settlement patterns. Longhouses were often built within short walking distance of winter stores. Today, the same method works with minor adaptation. Gardeners use leaves instead of straw, landscape fabric instead of sod, raised mounds in wet climates. The principle remains unchanged. Root clamps are not nostalgia, they are resilient design. They function without electricity, plastic, or constant attention. They scale from a bucket of carrots to a year's supply. The Vikings did not preserve vegetables, they aligned with winter.
The Viking root clamp was never meant to impress, it was meant to endure. That is why it quietly disappeared when abundance arrived, and why it returns every time systems begin to strain. In the modern world, we trust machines to replace understanding. Refrigerators hum day and night, burning energy to fight physics. Plastic bins promise freshness while quietly drying vegetables from the inside. Electricity gives the illusion of control until it fails. The root clamp requires none of that. It uses gravity, insulation, and biology, and that makes it dangerous to forget. What the Vikings understood and what modern gardeners are relearning is that winter storage is not about stopping decay, it is about slowing life without killing it. Carrots in a clamp are not preserved, they are paused. Their cells remain intact, their sugars concentrate, their structure holds. This is why clamp-stored vegetables cook differently. They roast sweeter, they hold shape in stews, they don't collapse into mush. Nutrients remain locked inside cell walls that were never ruptured by freezing or dehydration. Today's revival of root clamps often begins with disappointment. A gardener loses half a harvest to fridge rot. Another watches carrots turn limp after weeks in plastic. Then someone remembers an old method, dismissed for decades as primitive, and tries it out of curiosity. And it works. Not perfectly at first. Clamps fail when drainage is ignored, when vegetables are stored damaged, when straw is wet, when curiosity leads to frequent opening. But once learned, the method becomes reliable in a way modern storage rarely is. There is also a psychological shift. A clamp changes how people view winter. Instead of fighting it, they work with it. Instead of fearing cold, they use it as a tool. Winter becomes a partner, not an enemy. Historically, this mattered deeply. Root clamps reduced hunger without expanding labor. They allowed communities to survive lean years without dependence on trade. They made settlements resilient instead of fragile. That resilience is relevant again. Climate instability, energy costs, supply disruptions all expose how vulnerable modern food systems are. The Viking clamp does not solve everything, but it solves one ancient problem exceptionally well, keeping food alive when growth stops. Garden Lower Vault preserves this knowledge not because it is old, but because it is proven, because it survived centuries of winters harsher than most we face today, because it works quietly, reliably, without permission from any system. The Vikings did not conquer winter, they listened to it, and in that listening, they learned how to eat until spring.